Shalom, I'm Stephen Krause, Education Consultant at JESNA. Welcome to the fourth in a series of interviews with innovative Jewish educational leaders. The purpose of this series is to provide an eye-opening glimpse into some new approaches designed to provide quality Jewish education to key stakeholders. We hope that these presentations will stimulate thought and action in our WOW communities and in the larger field. Our guest today is Rabbi Rachel Nussbaum, Rabbi of the Kavana Cooperative in Seattle, Washington. Welcome, Rabbi.
Thank you.
For those unfamiliar with the WOW project, it's a joint initiative of JESNA and the Association of Directors of Central Agencies, known by the acronym of ADCA. The goal of the WOW project is to engage greater numbers of children and families in satisfying and impactful Jewish educational experiences by enhancing what exists and developing a broad range of program options using both traditional and non-traditional approaches. One of the guiding principles of the project is a focus on our end users, the learners, the students, and their families. Today we're going to hear about Kavana, a non-traditional approach that has not only captured the imagination of the Seattle community, but the country at large. Rabbi, could you please describe the guiding principles and goals of the Kavana Cooperative?
Sure. Kavana was founded in 2006 at a time when we were trying to create a project to reach out to families and young adults in the Seattle area who weren't connecting to Judaism through traditional synagogue institutions. So the foundational principles are that Kavana, first and foremost, is a cooperative. We call it the Kavana Cooperative. What that means is that we're asking for our participants to join in and take a greater sense of responsibility and ownership. We empower them to take ownership of their Jewish identity and to help in the creation of the programming that will work for them. It's a pluralistic community, although my training is as a conservative rabbi. We have a very wide spectrum of practices, beliefs, and backgrounds. We offer multiple entry points to our participants without valuing one over another. So I would say that we're, in a sense, the hub between, the nexus between a religious and a cultural institution. And we talk about personalized Judaism in a community context. In other words, that we're trying to tailor the experience to meet the needs of individual participants and families, while at the same time giving people a sense of being tied to a broader community, create small cohorts within the broader community.
So you alluded to it a little bit, but could you be more specific about what do you think are the similarities and differences between Kavana and a synagogue?
Sure. And I started Kavana actually coming out of a traditional synagogue background, so I think I have a lot of good perspective for comparison. Synagogues, first and foremost, are religious institutions. And you can see it in the way that they're set up architecturally and the way that clergy spends time, but they are set up around around religious services, around Shabbat, around holidays, around ritual. And there may be many other offerings, and I think the most successful synagogues of today actually do have a very wide range of offerings. At Kavana, though, we've tried to take the religious service piece and put it on par with all of the other offerings that we have. So on a given week, we may, it's no higher or lesser in terms of value to the community than anything else, and people opt in. It's the whole system that we've created is essentially an a la carte menu of a wide range of different Jewish offerings, from religious and spiritual, like Shabbat services. We have minyanim on a regular basis. We try to offer options whenever possible, to cultural programming, book clubs, arts, a lot of Hebrew language education, a lot of educational programming in general for both adults and families, social justice programming, a strong community context in general with a lot of community-based, a lot of home-based programs. So all of these are on par. We ask for people to commit to showing up and putting in face time on a very regular basis, but it could be to any of those. So structurally, we're sort of the nexus between synagogue, JCC, perhaps you could think of it like a Hillel model, but for adults and families.
Great. So we heard about your guiding principles, but my question is, how do you actually transfer them into action? How did you take your guiding principles and develop them into particularly the educational programming that you offer?
Super. So the first answer is a process answer. that over the last 4.5 years since Kavana came into existence, our education programs, along with everything else, have been a slow evolution, and they've grown out of the needs of the community. People are asking for things, and we actually have made very concerted efforts to try to get people together, get adults together to talk about what it is that they are looking for in a Jewish community, what their priorities are, what their values are. So, for example, our family education program, which offers educational programming for families, for children, and for parents, started with a team of adults who came together, a team of parents, and said, we want something for our kids, we're not sure what it is. And we spent a year fleshing out all the details, even as we were starting all of the pilot programs. And one thing that I have found is that, this is maybe a side note, but on the point of outreach, it has been a really wonderful way to include people of all backgrounds without making anyone feel that there's a certain bar of knowledge that they have to have even to be in the conversation. About half of the families who are involved in Manana have one parent from a Jewish background and one from a non-Jewish background. We have lots of untraditional families which might be single-parent families or blended families or gay or lesbian parents, or whatever other family structures you might be able to imagine, grandparents parenting children, adopted kids, all types. So getting the adults as stakeholders invested in this conversation right off the bat was really important, and giving everybody a voice in that conversation. The second is that we developed a vision and a mission statement specifically for our approach to education, which you can find through our website. On the family page, it opens into a whole vision and mission page. And so we try to use that as a yardstick for everything that we do educationally. And then the third is in terms of how it actually played out. The very first programs that we offered, our whole goal is to empower people to lead meaningful Jewish lives, to have meaningful Jewish experiences, to find unity. So with that in mind, what we did first is we created a set of family programs that were for the whole family to engage in together, and only after that began to create drop-off programs for kids, because we wanted to say, first and foremost, we believe that the family unit is the most important, that parents are the most important educators for their kids. So that all has to do with the evolution, and now what we have is a pretty robust a la carte menu for dealing with family children from birth through 6th grade. That's the oldest children in our community right now, and each year we're growing a bit. So next year we'll hit our first B'nai Mitzvah, and we'll move on in the next few years to creating a high school program, but we've just started our middle school program. And what I mean is that we have sorted out separate tracks. When I went to Hebrew school in a very conventional Hebrew school that I think was probably typical for the 1980s of every community, including probably lots of the people who will be watching this video, all Jewish education was packed onto 3 days of the week. It was Monday and Wednesday afternoon and Sunday morning, and we covered everything. It was Hebrew and holidays and values and stories and Bible and songs, like everything that you can imagine was content packed into 3 days. And here at Kavana, we've tried to sort out the educational strands. So, for example, we have a family Shabbat program that meets on one Saturday of the month, and that is the place where families can learn the meaning of the Shabbat morning liturgy and can explore Jewish values. And we tackle one value at each program and do it in a multifaceted way. We break adults and kids up, we bring them back together. So that is the place where Shabbat liturgy is happening and where values are happening, which means that they're not happening in our after-school program, for example. So in our after-school program, we again have just two strands of education. One is Hebrew language immersion, and another is Jewish narrative stories, Bible stories, values, Jewish culture in that sense. Holidays have been pulled out into a separate strand. We're running a full-on Hebrew immersion preschool at this point. So we have lots and lots of different pieces, and what we encourage families to do is choose the pieces and the combinations that work best for them. So if someone were to take advantage of all of the options, and we have a few families who do, I think they're getting a very robust Jewish education with about 3 hits a week. They're here in person 3 times a week, but also offer the options where people can come less frequently, but pick and choose the pieces of Jewish education that are most important to their families.
So with your 3 to 4 years of experience now with this kinds of programming, so what have been really the successful things that you've done, and what are the challenges that you've really encountered and perhaps are still encountering?
Sure. Well, I think a lot is successful. When I walk out of when I walk out of the GON classroom, I've just heard kids who come from regular English-speaking homes just interacting with their teachers fully in Hebrew. I think that's a remarkable success. I'm really excited about the language education that we've been able to do. I think we've managed to do a great job of modeling. So there are kids who see their parents engaged on a very regular basis in Jewish learning and Jewish conversations, and I think that's been successful. I think putting the emphasis on what happens in the home rather than what happens in the building here. It's not about the synagogue and how people observe Shabbat together here. It's what people do at home. And so our programs are designed, many of them, with that home focus. So, for example, our holiday programs, we have holiday celebrations as a community, but we also have a series called Prep and Practice, where the whole goal is to get families together 2 weeks before a holiday, get them learning about the holiday, making things that they'll need for the holiday, and think about what they're going to do together. So when I hear reports back about home observances that were particularly meaningful, people who invited each other over and had content-rich holiday celebrations in their home, to me, again, those are signs of success and of a vibrant community. Challenges are ongoing. One challenge that's just a realistic challenge is people's time and energy and bandwidth. Ours is a very volunteer-driven system, and we have had lots of challenges, lots of struggles over time with where exactly to fit the right balance between professionally led programs and volunteer-run programs. And at this point, for our family and children's education programs, we've settled into a pattern where professional leaders work hand in hand with the parents in a cohort, but it's always a challenge just because people are busy and lives get busy and meetings are tough to make happen. So we've tried to put a priority on it, but I will be honest and say that that's an ongoing challenge. One of the challenges for me as a rabbi is trying to figure out what I can live with and what I can't live with and where to draw lines. So, like I said, it's an a la carte system, and I don't know that it would work for every rabbi to be able to sit here and do this and allow people to pick and choose only the pieces that they want. I have to deal with the consequence that it may mean that there are people who come through Kavana's educational programs never having fully dipped into one area. They may have completely left out the stream around Hebrew, or they may have completely left out the stream around liturgy, and I have to be okay with that. So I recognize that would not necessarily work for every community. But all in all, I would say that it's been very successful. The level of passion and the level of engagement from families here is incredibly high, which makes me feel good about what we're doing.
Good. So where do you think Kavana is going to be 3 years from now? Where do you want it to be? Where are you hoping it's going to be? Where are you pushing it?
Well, in this arena, I guess I'm hoping that Kavana will be continuing to do innovative programming, continuing to experiment. I really see this as a laboratory for innovation. And we're trying to create the best programming that we can for the families here in Seattle. And we're also trying to put out a model to the world. So, for example, right now, we're already 2 years into a planning process for next year's B'nai Mitzvah class, which will be our first. And we're trying to create a more tailored approach to bar and bat mitzvah. And in a year or so, I should be able to report back on how that's going. But my ideal would be that by 3 years from now, 5 years from now, we've actually successfully created a really interesting and content-rich approach to bar and bat mitzvah that engages children and engages their parents and engages the whole family, and that we can put that model out to other communities in the country who are struggling around some of the same questions. And I think that's my vision for Kavana as a whole as well, that we continue to strengthen this local community to the greatest extent that we can and build it in innovative ways and continue to be experimental in what we're trying and share our successes and failures and challenges with the Jewish world at large.
Great. So you mentioned the community. At this point, can you speak about the type of impact that Kavana has had on other synagogues in Seattle and their schools? Has there been any impact?
Yeah, I think there has. It's been primarily indirect so far because, as we've noted, this is a really new project, and we've been rolling out programs over each of the last 4 years. So nothing has been tested over a long period of time yet, and I think that we will have more impact as a program's longevity increases. But for right now, there are already other synagogues and other day schools actually in the Seattle community that are following our lead in some interesting ways. I mentioned that Kavana started the Hebrew immersion preschool. We're now in our second year, and it's been incredibly successful. And we have a wide range of families, kids who are from only English-speaking homes, kids with one Israeli parent and one American parent, kids with one Israeli parent and one non-Jewish parent. It's really an interesting mix, but it's been incredibly successful because it's immersion beginning with such a young age. And so I actually know that this year, one of the day schools in the area is experimenting with turning their preschool, turning one class into a Hebrew immersion preschool. And I think it's because of the success of this model. And the Hebrew immersion programming, like our play group for babies and toddlers, has already been emulated. That's a program that the JCC is now running at 2 campuses as well. So what's as a one place in Seattle now is happening in 3 places in Seattle. I'm in conversations on a pretty regular basis with educators from some of the synagogues, and many of them are starting to look at changing their very traditional Hebrew school models to a model that involves families on a more rich level and includes more family programming as part of the structure. So we'll see how it all unfolds in the coming years. But yes, I mean, I think that there are already ripple effects. And that's exactly the kind of change that I would hope for, is that what we're doing here has impact not only on the people who are participating in our program, but on the community at large.
Thank you. You mentioned your website for people who want more information. Do you want to tell everybody what that website address is?
Absolutely. www.kavana.org. It's spelled Kavana.org. And on that page, you'll find a full range of everything the community does. But if you click particularly on the picture of the little girl where it says families, you'll get all the information about the family and the children's programming that we've been talking about, and be able to see that mission statement and the a la carte menu of all the programs that we offer.
Great. So I mentioned at the beginning how Kavana has really caught the attention of not only Seattle but the country. And we also have within Judaism a tradition that when we praise somebody, we don't praise them as much as we could or would if they weren't there. So I will just mention the following. Kavana was recently named as one of the top 50 innovative inspirational organizations in Jewish life by Slingshot. Rabbi Nussbaum herself is actually was chosen as a Avichai Fellow in 2009, and this past year she was also chosen as a Joshua Venture Fellow. So we are happy to have the opportunity to speak with somebody who's really in the forefront of so many levels of the world of Jewish world and Jewish education. And we thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon, my time, and morning your time, and we look forward to hearing more and more about Kavana as time goes on. Thank you.
Thank you.